it's a hurricane! No, it's actually still Tropical Storm Isaac. And I just got bored and I want to show you guys how to fire up a Aster Berkshire. This is getting pretty crazy out here, but it's probably the worst it's going to get. So, anyway, over here in my messy garage, and it's messy for a reason. See the Berk. Hi, first I'd like to go over what exactly you need to run this locomotive. First, I use, you have to use a type of machine oil. Right now I'm using this turbine oil, but a lot of people do use 3-in-1. This is the blower fan to start up the draft from the fire. A lighter. I use a mirror to check on the wicks. This is a syringe to pull out the oil at the end of a run and also help get the oil in before the run. This is a pump that I use to get the alcohol in. Some people just use a funnel. I use green velvet steam oil, distilled water, and denatured alcohol. First thing I'm going to do is take the alcohol tank out of the locomotive. This locomotive has a chicken feed that feeds out the bottom of this tank. When you open up this valve on the top here, it lets air in. I don't know if you can see this. Lets air in that little hole and then dumps out this tube here into the chicken feed tank. So before you ever want to pick this up, especially after a run or whatever, you want to make sure that this valve is completely closed. And don't ever open this up unless this is completely closed, else it will let air into the tank and it'll dump alcohol over the ground. Don't ask me how I know this. Okay, now this is completely shut. Now we're going to open up the alcohol tank. And open up our denatured alcohol. Okay, now we're going to pump the alcohol into the alcohol tank. When you do this, you want to make sure you don't spill any, and if you do, you want to move the locomotive away from the spill for obvious reasons. Screw this back on. Has to be airtight. You just tighten until the O-ring tightens down. And just slide this back into the locomotive. Next thing we want to do is add water to the back tank. It's hard to get off, but see in here we have water pump, which comes with a water pump handle. Slides on like that. And then we have a drain plug. So there's no water in here, I can show you. It basically is a way of draining the tank out the back. And then in here you have the tube that heads off. You can see better this. The tube that heads off toward the engine, and then the return tube. So when you have the bypass, bypassing it and it's not pumping water into the boiler, it'll pump back into here. So in order to add water, you just pour water into this bath here, and you can do this while running. So you can keep the engine up and running for a very long period of time, as long as you keep water in here and as long as the pump is keeping up the water in the boiler. Next thing we want to do is put oil in the oiler, which is right here on this particular engine. Before you put the oil in, you want to take the old oil out. which is actually half full of water because of displacement. So you take your syringe and you suck all the oil out, which is mostly just water. It's not really even oil. You want to make sure there's only oil in there, not any water, because then you want to make sure your cylinders are lubricated properly. So you just do your best to get it out of there. And then put some new oil in. With off, you can see it's where all the oil goes. The way I've been getting the oil in the engine lately is just to give it just enough a stream so it doesn't cause a surface tension on the top. Else, if it does, then you have to let the air out of the tank and let the oil go to the bottom. There's a certain finesse to getting the oil in there. After you're done making sure that you have the oil in there and you make sure there's no air bubbles in the tank, it's full of oil, you just tighten it up. Next thing we're going to do is pump water in the boiler. Now you can see in the cab, see there's a sight glass on the left, and the left control knob is actually the blower. So what I do is open the blower. This is the blowdown right here, this little screw. You want to make sure that's tight, not too tight, but just basically shut, so the water doesn't drip all out when you start pumping it in. Then you take the bypass for the axle pump and you turn it all the way to the right so we can pump water through the system first, so that there's no air bubbles in the system. And you can see it squirting out there. That means there's no air bubbles in the system anymore. Then after that, we go down to here, and then we take the bypass, push it all the way to the left to completely close, and then we start pumping the boiler full of water. With the Aster Berkshire, I suggest you do it to halfway up the sight glass. I did it a little higher than that, and it started blowing water everywhere. So I have to. I guess every engine's a little bit different. Yeah, this takes a little bit of time because this is a pretty big locomotive. And now we can see the water's halfway up the sight glass. So now what we want to do is completely shut our blower. If you haven't done so, you also want to make sure that this control is all the way up, because this is the throttle, and Johnson bar's right here. If you want to know. And this is also the drain cocks are down here. So now we're gonna light the locomotive. So first we open the alcohol up, and you'll see it flow through the tube underneath. There it goes. And it'll take a few seconds to wick in. What we want to do is turn our fan on. Stick it in here on the top. Whoops. So we're ready to light up. You take flint and steel, and you get your hands up underneath the engine, and you just start. You just have to give it a good, spark, like that. Actually, I'm just kidding. Do not do that. Use a lighter. And then I usually slide the lighter in here. It's probably harder on the track, but yeah, slide the lighter in here and I light it. An easy way to know if the wicks are lit, you just slightly pull in the lighter and you'll see it light it immediately. So after that, I take my mirror and I look up underneath, and you can see that all the wicks are lit. And the blue is good. If it's really, really orange, that means it's not getting enough alcohol or something's wrong with your wicks. But we're getting a good, strong blue fire. So it's looking good. Okay. Okay, while it's steaming up, the next thing I do is I take my oil and you can do this ahead of time before you even run the engine, or you can do it just a little bit before you run it, because I'll start lubricating the little bits and pieces. Make sure that it doesn't prematurely wear. It's just an important step. A lot of people use 3-in-1. I've just been using this stuff because I heard it was really good. And then you do it on the other side too. You get up to about 1 bar, we'll start opening up the blower and take off the fan because we don't need it anymore. It'll continue to bring up the whole engine on blower alone. And probably add a little bit more. If you have too much water in the boiler when you do this step, it'll actually start showering everybody around you. Don't ask me how I know this. I do have a little bit too much water in it, but it's okay. We could turn it down a little bit. Starts to blow off. Now we can turn the blower down so we don't need that much blower. Okay, first we're ready to take off. So we open up the drain cocks, which as I pull toward me. Yeah, it gets hot in the cab there. Way down here is the drain cocks. Pull that toward me. And then I start giving it a little throttle, which is this knob to the right of the pressure gauge. Oh, first I gotta put the Johnson bar forward. Shut the valve. Johnson bar forward. Then I give it throttle. You gotta figure out how much you want the drain cocks to open. In the initial startup, it will be quite a bit messy. I'm making a big mess right there. See, the water's getting a little low there, so you gotta make sure that it's pumping water into it. You gotta keep an eye on that. I'll start seeing it come up in there in a minute. See the water coming up now? Yep. So this is with the stock pump. You know they have a reworked pump. It's supposed to do, I guess it's supposed to pump more. If for some reason when you're running, you're dropping pressure, you can open up the blower and it'll kick the fire up a notch and heat it up to the point of so it can easily pump. See, right now it's starting to blow water out the top. So what I do with the bypass, I put it in the center. So that, everybody has to find what settings to use. And you see, if I put it over, you'll see the actual pump working. And now I stopped putting so much water in that it was blowing out the top of the stack. And I'm starting to see it heat up again. And I got the blower open. Tilt so we can get it to go. See how the baker gear works? So what's interesting is I'll set it for reverse and then watch how that baker gear works. Here's reverse. Pretty interesting mechanism. Since we got a lot of pressure, I could shut the blower off and we can get the raw chugging power. Since you can't really hear it chugging, it's because there's no load on it. See, and that's blowing off just on exhaust alone. No blower at all. Now if I add some resistance to it, I don't know if you can hear that. This engine has a load of power. And if you ever get in trouble and you don't think the water pump's keeping up or whatever, you can always stop it. Open the blower up a little bit. And start pumping water into it. Yep, that's Tropical Storm Isaac. See, and that'll actually cool it down because I'm putting nice cold water into it. And we'll start going forward again. I'll change out the Johnson bar. And I think there's actually a company notch on this engine. I haven't tried running it though. And down here is where the drain cocks are, so I'm going to pull that forward, and you can see what happens. And it's shooting all the stuff out. And then I'll go back here and I'll pull on that knob, and you can see what happens when I shut them. And I don't want it to run that fast, so I'll slow it down a little bit. Yeah, it looks like it needs a little bit of timing, but I'm not going to really mess with that for a while. see how much more power it has when you shut the drain cock. You can shut them at level. Here's a little bit more shut. A little bit more. This is the actual blowdown. Let's do it real quick. You can see the water's going down in the center a little bit. Yep, take off. Probably half drain cock. So usually to shut it down, if you want to shut it down before you run out of alcohol, you just shut this. You have to let the alcohol run out. You could blow it out, but it's very hard. What you'll see is nice blue flame. I'll show you in a minute. It'll start turning orange in there. Once it turns orange, you can blow it out. It takes a little bit. There's usually a lot of alcohol in it. Okay, I'm going to hold it like this because this tube's going to get very hot. And then I just open up the blow down. And just give it a good cleaning. You got to make sure that the steam's, the fire's completely out before you do this, because if you don't, this is actually taking all the water out of your boiler. And you don't want to do that. Not if you have fire in there still. And that cleans off most of the oil and everything, and you don't really need to do much after that, other than getting it ready for the next run. Oiling it, physically oiling it, putting steam oil into it, and everything else. I say before it gets cold, you want to crack the blow off open slightly, because you don't want to move these the blow off in the throttle when it's cold, because if the expansion contraction of the actual nuts will actually make it stick, and you could unscrew something if you try to open it when it's not hot. So this concludes my little demonstration, and hope you enjoyed it.